All right, boys. I hope everyone had a good week. Talk to me about some of your dad wins or fails that you've had.
So we've had, I had 2 birthdays last week within 3 days of the kids. So pretty sugared up right now.
Yeah.
Feeling really good, man. You know, which I don't know about you guys, but we don't do a ton for their birthdays. Like we kind of keep it pretty small. Like I know some folks have big parties and like blowouts. Do you guys
That's
go for it?
We every once in a while we have 4 or 5 kids born in April, so April's like
April's
a
a party
back to
month.
back.
But you do it individually? You do like
So,
one big
every kid
celebration?
gets their own birthday.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
But we don't do like a big, and then we'll have one big celebration for like everybody can come over and give gifts. But like each kid gets their own day.
Huh.
But it's intense, dude. It's intense. But yeah, no.
Do you get family involved?
Usually my parents come by. The rest of my family, they're not like super close.
Okay.
And sometimes if it's a weekend.
Geographically or emotionally?
Geographically. Yeah, emotionally we're strong.
That's always a sensitive question.
Way to unpack this 3 minutes in.
Wow, this is going to take a while, Naveed.
Started at 4 years old.
They're not, and I feel like if it's during the week, you know, we just don't. If it's a weekend thing and we can work it out, then we do. Usually my parents around or my in-laws if they're in town.
Yeah.
They'll come by.
Yeah.
But the old February birthdays are kind of rough too, though, because, you know.
It's nice to break up the year. It's a weird time of year. What about you?
Yeah.
So timely for today's topic, I just got back from a trip. I was gone for about 4 days, and it was weird. Like landed at 5, but didn't get home till like 9 o'clock, almost 9 o'clock because of some other stuff I had to get done. So anyway, like I come in the house, all the kids are already upstairs, and my wife is telling a bedtime story or whatever. So I like crawl into the room, like super like covert op, and like crawl under the bed because my one daughter has like a double, so all the kids will like sit on the bed as they tell the story, like crawl on the bed, and they all start freaking out. Dad's home, Dad's home. They all jump on me and whatever else.
Nice.
And my one daughter, she's 4. She like spins around. Her eyes like whelp with tears. She's like, Daddy, and her voice, and she like grabs me by the neck and like wrangles me down, and she has tears just streaming down her face. I'm just like, oh my word, this is the most incredible thing ever.
Awesome.
You got to capture this because it only happens every once in a while. So that's my big win of the week. Is
That's a really funny story
Getting
because
wrapped.
you and I were on the same trip together, and my 4-year-old. So maybe it's just that like specific age. So whenever I'm like coming back from like, you know, a long drive or whatever, like from the airport, I'll usually share like my ETA like with my wife.
Oh, cool.
So she can kind of like pre-plan like, okay, it was around dinner time, but around the time I got back. And my 4-year-old apparently had like the iPhone and she was watching the car trip like all the way back. And as soon as I arrived, the door was already open and she's like waiting for me. And same thing, like she's welling up, I'm welling up, and she like wouldn't let go of my leg. Like just literally was like just glued to my leg. So you know when like you're trying to walk, but like you've got like a kid stuck, whatever. The complete opposite with my almost 2-year-old.
Yeah, she's like,
She's like, you again?
She was so like clingy with my wife. I was like, I've literally been away for 3 days. And it was just the complete role reversal. So I wonder if like 4 is that sweet spot of like, you know, missing your dad and whatever else.
That is one of the greatest feelings about being a dad.
It's such a good
It's like, you know, you come in, because you're right. It only happens at that window of an age.
Yeah.
But they're like the dog, you know, they're just so happy that you're there.
4 to 6 years old, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Did you well up? Because I was welling up.
No, I had 4 other kids like laying on me. Part of me was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, me neither. I was.
I'm done.
It's a quick moment.
Yeah, me neither.
quick.
Me neither.
Oh, okay, I'm done.
That's awesome. Well, look, that leads nicely into our main topic for this week. So let's kick it off with a question. So, what's the hardest part about being away from your kids?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one first. I mean, I think that there's a rhythm to the day when you're at home, right? Like where I'll wake up early typically. Like I'm up usually between like 5:30 and 6 in the morning, or I try to be anyway. And so like, you know, certain kids wake up and they come down, and certain mornings they're loud and obnoxious and whatever, and you shoo them away, tell them to read a book or whatever. Yeah. But then other mornings, you know, they'll come in, they'll snuggle, and you all typically do like Bible study down in my like living room. I'll be sitting on the couch or whatever, and they'll like tuck in next to me, and like, you know, I get that like 30 seconds of like sipping a coffee, like all is right in the world. Yeah. And then, you know, they get ready for school, and there's just a normal cadence of the day. You come home from work. And I think the biggest thing I miss is sort of that cadence where you get to see your kids in the morning. Obviously, you get to kiss them goodnight. And usually when I come home, even though I'm usually there after dinner, like I don't always get home for dinner time, they'll tell me the stories of the day, and they'll be all just, whatever. Tell me all about whatever crazy thing happened at school that day.
Yep.
And then I have my older kids at night that tell me all the drama that's happening in high school, whatever else. And so I miss, like, the thing that I miss most is just sort of that cadence of the day, because when you work so hard, at least for me, like, I'm not working for a Lamborghini. I'm not really working for that sort of stuff. I work for my kids, right? Or work for what I want to be able to provide them a better life or give them the opportunity to do different things. And so when that gets removed from your day to day, there's this feeling, and even in our most recent trip, you like sit there, and it was I flew in on Sunday night, so like Sunday night's usually a big family night. I had to fly out on Sunday, and you're kind of sitting on the plane going like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like I am like supporting my kids, and obviously it's the way I do it. But like, how much do I have to trade off not being there for them? So I'd say the biggest part of me is just kind of missing the normal daily cadence. Nothing special. No oh, my kids, first steps or whatever. Because I miss those typically because I'm at work a lot. But just that sort of cadence is the biggest thing that I think is.
Isn't it funny too how when you're home every day and you're just doing it every day, you just think, "What? I'm just sitting here eating dinner." Yeah. But then when you're gone, you're like, "Man, I'm missing those." It's just another night. But to your point, there's something about not being there that you feel. When
what about you? What do you think?
I think it's twofold. I think a lot of what Andrew said, you feel the distance sometimes, and then the other side of it is, I know I'm leaving my wife in a power play situation.
Power play. I love the scenario.
I will let you finish your thought process because I have some thoughts.
Well,
on this too.
I mean, you're taking somebody out of the game, man. And now she's left to kind of fend for herself. So we have four.
How old your oldest again?
She's 9.
9. Okay,
Yeah.
so she's getting to the age where she's able to help.
She's super helpful.
Yeah,
and honestly, our 6-year-old is pretty helpful too. They know the program, right? But there's still with 4 little kids in the house, and I'm like, again, when we come home from work, I'm able to bring support, help, whatever, and then it's from. I mean, if you've ever done it as a dad, when you have all the kids, 4 kids from day through all night, you're just like, my wife's a superhero, and so you're leaving them in that situation, which is always challenging.
Yeah, mine's similar to yours. It's the dad guilt, less so of like being away like from the kids, because mine are 18 months and 4 years old. So, I don't get like the true debrief of the day that you get. My 4-year-old does. I mean, I'll get like a blow-by-blow account of the day itself. And I do miss like the cadence because we do a lot in the mornings together. So I missed all the drop-offs this week when we were traveling. Yeah. And that is like the favorite part of my day. As I, shared once before, that's also my daughter's favorite part of her day as well. So I do miss that. But I also then have the dad guilt piece, or maybe the husband guilt piece of the evenings are when I'm not going to say I shine in the evenings, but I'm there to assist where I can in the evenings. And then at that point, I know, my wife is stuck in a never-ending routine with them. So I actually think the hardest part is less so like, given the ages of my kids, more so being like the husband guilt of leaving my wife. But she's a trooper when it comes to that.
Do you ever wonder, or not to cut you off, do you ever wonder if they're just kind of like, it's nice not having another child around that I have to take care of after I put these ones to bed.
They are.
I can just draw myself a bath.
It might well be. She. I think she told me on the first night that I was away recently on the trip we were on together. She was like, I was up till 1:45 in the morning. I was tucked up in bed by 9:30 p.m. But she had like 3 or 4 of her sisters around. I think a couple of them slept over. 2 of my nieces slept over. My father-in-law came over for a haircut. It was chaos.
There you go.
So, I think it's also an opportunity because I'm a really rigid person. So if that cattle production or circus was happening while I was there,
I'd shut this down.
Oh, I would. By 8 p.m. I'd be throwing people out.
Well, it's funny. So I left Super Bowl Sunday. I was flying, and so my wife, they had no plans. My sons were devastated that I was flying during the Super Bowl. But anyway, I land and I get a picture because obviously the Super Bowl started, whatever. So I get a picture when I land. And my one son's sitting there watching the TV. You see like his back, wearing his Cavs Mitchell jersey, watching the Super Bowl. But I realized, it's at my in-laws' house. So my wife went down to my in-laws. They end up staying down there till 11. It's a school night, till 11 o'clock. If I'm there, it's like 7:45. Yeah. We're out. Kids are going to bed. Yeah,
it's like we're done. The kids is for you.
We're done. We're done. I don't care. Yeah. The kids, she's like, it was the most amazing night. We got home. The kids like they just all took their own baths and showers. They all went to bed. Nobody woke up till 7 the next day. She's like, it was amazing. And I'm like, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because to your point, like,
Yeah.
I'm holding them back from having more fun.
Yeah, that's so
It's
funny.
actually funny because I'll pivot a little bit. It's funny because when you think about a trip, like that night where I was tucked up in bed by 9:30 p.m. When you look at like a trip away, you always think I get to work out more, or you think I get to sleep more,
Yeah.
or you think I get to do whatever. But it doesn't really work out that way because you're sleeping by yourself. It's kind of like weird. The hotel rooms are never perfect.
I mean, if you're one of those guys who travels 200 days a year, maybe it's like you got your
Sure.
routine, and so
Right.
it's more of a rhythm to be traveling. But I don't travel all that much. I'll go on whatever 5, maybe 10, maybe 8 trips a year, something like that.
Yeah. What about our dads though? Like growing up, like did either of you guys travel a lot?
My dad did. Yeah, he traveled quite a bit for work. So mom was holding it down.
Was it noticeable like for you?
Not a ton. You know, I think when you're younger, you don't really notice everything that's going around. You just, as long as you have one familiar face. Right? So if they both leave, you remember those trips because usually something
I think you would remember
really bad
more.
happens.
I think you would remember more if your mom was away for a specific period of time.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
every kid would.
Yeah,
would
but
be like-
but there was a couple trips too. Like he would bring us on, which was always
that's
fun
cool.
because it kind of just made, an adventure and got
It's
to
also
get
a
out.
different time, like when your dads were away. Like there's no FaceTime. There's none of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
My-
yeah.
They call
It's a lot
once a
different.
day, maybe at night or something like that. Yeah.
Write your letter that like is 2 weeks later
Send
makes
you-
its way to you. Yeah. My dad never traveled. My dad's a
No?
doctor, so
Okay.
like there was just never a need. I think back in the 80s and 90s, like there was like pharmaceutical reps and stuff like that, where there were conferences and stuff, but he was never really doing that. But I do have one core memory of my dad going out to Malaysia to like help out his brother at the time. Like he needed some help at the time, and he was gone for 2 weeks, and I was maybe 5 or 6, and I cried every single day.
You're the oldest, right?
I'm the oldest.
Yeah, you're the
Yeah,
oldest.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that adds like another level of like, oldest son, dad. There's a
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
there.
And I was also like, I'm not ready to be the man of the house
Yeah.
yet. Like, it just,
like gets his
Not
suit
yet.
on, goes to work the next morning.
I don't think I can work on these people. Yeah, just kind of fill in as a doctor.
like, it's pretty easy. I've seen enough Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy at this point. But I just remember, and maybe it goes back to like, your 4-year-old and my 4-year-old. 4, 5, 6 is kind of that sweet spot age where like you start developing like memories and you start remembering all of that stuff as well. What about your dad? Did he
My
travel?
dad never traveled for work. He was a truck driver, so it was like he couldn't travel. Like it actually was the opposite of it. He had to be so like regimented every day. You do this, you do this, you do this. So I did not grow up in that house, but my parents did. We did adopt a bunch of like my parents adopted 5 or 6 kids internationally. And there was one trip in particular where my dad had to stay in the country for, I think it was like 2.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And so I would say that trip I remembered because my mom had to fly back and forth.
How old are you?
I was probably like 13.
Okay.
So like
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
old enough to know and like have to be part of like the helping team to kind of facilitate everything. But that was, I remember that being like a big deal because he was in, obviously this was late 90s, something like that, early 2000s. Like it's where like the cell phones, you couldn't just call anywhere in the world with a cell phone. There was no FaceTime. There was no, any of that sort of stuff wasn't really.
Just got to trust it through over there.
Yeah, and so like every once in a while
Seriously,
he'd call home,
Yeah.
and that would be like, "Hey, I got 5 minutes because I bought a call card for 5 minutes, and that's it,
call
right?
cards,
Call cards, right? Like,
Went 100 collect.
Yeah.
Collect calls.
and we'll collect calls from
You couldn't do
international
that,
were
yeah.
insane, right?
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
$10 a
At
minute or
that
whatever.
point, you're just hoping your dad comes back after 2 weeks and doesn't find a new family. And
Yeah, well, sure, and it was Russia too, right? So
okay.
now, so he was in Russia for like 2.5 weeks, and you never know when you go to these adoption things because it's always a little sketchy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the only time I remember my dad being gone for any sort of
Yeah.
extended period of time that was like impactful or meaningful.
Well, your kids are a little bit older. Like when you have traveled, over the years, like have any of your kids struggled with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they grew up in the technology era
Yeah.
though, so it's a little bit different. Like,
Yeah.
what's really cool is even on this most recent trip that we've been talking about, like, I have, I'm texting my wife or whatever throughout the day, just kind of checking in, but I'm also texting my other kids.
Yeah.
So like they're
cool.
they're filling me in on what happened or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not completely divorced from it.
Yeah.
Whereas like they'll make whatever sarcastic comments about
Yeah.
like, oh Dad, how's the weather? Because we have a nice
Yeah.
area, whatever. And like they'll do that sort of stuff, which is it's fun.
That's
Like,
fun.
Yeah.
it's fun. So I
Keeps
would say
you
it
connected.
changes a little different because you have the FaceTimes, you have the direct connection.
FaceTime's clutch. Like one dad hack that I kind of do is I usually try and do like my morning routine like with the kids in
that's
the
cool.
morning.
Okay.
So like when I'm up and like I've already worked out or whatever while I'm traveling, when I'm in the bathroom and I'm like brushing my teeth and just like getting ready for doing my hair basically.
Yeah. 45 minutes later.
Exactly, it was perfect. 45
lay
minutes.
everything out.
Yeah, exactly. I'll FaceTime the kids then, and usually they're having breakfast at that time. So to your point, I kind of know like the cadence of the day.
Yeah.
So I know at this time they're probably doing breakfast. At this time they're probably having a meltdown. At this time they're doing whatever.
That does get tricky with the time zones though. Like so.
Oh yeah,
if
when
that's-
you're like going west or
if you're in the same time zone, it actually works out.
I
pretty
kind of
well.
love it when we go when you go west though.
I
Like,
love it
because they'll be done for the evening, and hopefully the kids are kind of like settled and asleep by the time like you have to then kick off like your evening festivities or whatever work wise. But FaceTime's been huge. Like we do a lot, and a sidetrack is that my kids are so used to using FaceTime because of like my family in the UK. Like they're on FaceTime most days. So when I'm away, instantly my daughter will be, or my eldest will be like, well, can I FaceTime Dad? And it'll just be like silly things like, this week was Valentine's at school. So they did a whole bunch of like Valentine's stuff.
Okay.
And so she was like just really excited to like share
Yeah.
all that stuff. And it's great. Like I really like that FaceTime connection because you can literally have a 30-second conversation and it feel a lot more impactful because you've seen their face, their reaction, and whatever else. What about you, Matt? Like, how do you try and stay
So
connected?
I do the same thing with the FaceTime, but I've found too, you got to know your pockets and try like multiple times throughout the day. So there are times, to your point, like I would try. I know if I have like 5-10 minutes in the morning, I can try them then. If I don't catch them then, I know I can try them at this, right. So it's,
Otherwise, you're just a nuisance, right?
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You're FaceTiming every 10 minutes.
And your wife's like, do you need FaceTime or do the kids need FaceTime?
Yeah, so I do a splattering approach, where I figure I can catch them, and same thing. Their schedule, and I think with the time zone, you just can plan it out. But that's kind of how I try to stay connected. But I will say though, it is hard. You guys ever do the FaceTime and you realized it's just chaos at the house, and then there's nothing you can do to help?
That's where you just pretend you're frozen. Like, just hang up. Just be done. Kidding.
What's the longest you guys have ever been away from the kids?
Question. Mine's probably about a week.
I went, I think, a week to 10 days at one point. But that's about it. And that was a weird one. That was like...
That's actually not. I don't find that enjoyable.
It was such limited contact.
Yeah.
Not because I wanted it to be, it's just how it all worked out.
Yeah.
Different time zone, where they were located, bad internet, all that sort of stuff. And it was like, it was really weird. Like it felt like I did not like it. Like I could not be that guy like who doesn't talk to his family for a week or whatever.
Yeah,
like
me neither.
it was a very weird deal.
Did you do anything special with that like trip? Like, did you have any like travel traditions around that, or gifts, or anything like that you did for the kids?
So one of the first trips I did with little kids, I was gone for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And I did the at the airport, like, oh crap, I should get him something. So you grab a bunch of crap from whatever airport place you can.
Yeah.
And my wife still has the mug that I got her at that airport.
World's best wife.
Yeah, something like that.
Probably cost $45.
Wish you were here.
Thanks, Nashville. But I mean, now with so many kids, I don't. Like, it's just it. First off, I pack like a carry-on. I never try to check
You
anything.
need a second bag.
Yeah,
just to carry on
I
the
need a second
souvenirs.
bag. So, like sometimes I'll grab like if I'm in wherever the area is, if I'm on the coast, I might grab like a thing of saltwater taffy and be like,
cool,
hey guys, here's
So it's
candy.
half eaten. Dad got hungry on the plane.
Exactly. But typically I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And, just because. How about you guys? I mean, do you
My
guys
wife
do a
tells me
souvenir
now,
guy?
do not bring anything
Yeah.
home. Like, because at first it
interesting.
was, I would always bring something home and try to, best case scenario, you find something regional like to the area and you're like, oh, that's, but lately she's just like, please don't.
I'm
don't.
gonna flip it a little bit. So as I was getting ready to leave, and, you're doing your hugs and your goodbyes and whatever else. I was saying to my wife, or kind of whining a little bit, saying that like, it's going to be tough to sleep because I'm a creature of habit. So I always struggle to sleep like when we're away. And my eldest overheard, and she's like, Dad, and she like runs like runs back upstairs, and she brings me like 2 like stuffed animals, and she's like, these help me sleep. And so she like packed them like in my bag. So I had like 2 like small like kittens or whatever
awesome.
in my bag. So that was awesome.
I have a crafty daughter too who makes stuff constantly. Like she's amazing. She's always making something, and so she'll usually slip me something.
Kids must be born like that, right? Because like I'm not that way inclined.
I wonder if it gets like taken out of you. Like I wonder if all kids are relatively creative.
Yeah.
And over the years, like school and everything is structured around like do the plan. Do the plan.
Yeah.
Don't be creative. Because if kids are left to their own devices, like think about what a kid does at home. Like they're coloring.
Yeah.
They're they're cutting. And even when they're coloring, like you're demanding them to stay in the lines. When a kid just naturally is like, oh, I'm going to color or do whatever. And anyway, so I wonder if that's just a natural.
Might well be.
Could be.
Natural thing.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to get too philosophical.
No. Well, let's bring it back. What about work trips where you've brought like spouses, kids, anything like that? Have you guys ever toyed with that idea?
I have the worst one ever that happened.
I would love to hear it.
That happened recently. But go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I got to hear this now, man.
So we had one of our companies. We had a big conference, and it was in Arizona. So we are obviously in Ohio. We're in Arizona, and my kids love Arizona. So I'm like, you know what? It's not like it was a week-long thing. Like we're going to take everybody out there, and then we'll add 2 or 3 days to the end of it, and we'll kind of make it a fun vacation because I was busy the entire time. Yeah. So we ended up getting in a couple days early, whatever. And my schedule from when I basically landed for the first 5 days was packed, right? I mean, there was like very little time for anything. And so it was up to my wife to basically like hold down the fort to like take care of all the kids.
Yeah.
Well, we typically will get a house when we travel just because we have 11 kids, condos, whatever. Like they become very challenging to do. So we end up getting these like side-by-side rooms in the hotel that the conference is being held at. And it was like, it was okay the first day. But the night of the second night, one of my kids gets sick. And this is like the worst type of sickness, right? This is projectile. This is everything that could, everything bad that could happen, right? Yeah. And my wife is an unbelievable saint to the point that like, I come back to the hotel room and she's like, so-and-so has been throwing up, da-da-da. And I look at her, I'm like, I am like presenting tomorrow. I've got like all this stuff I got to do. Like I can't be around. I cannot get sick. Yeah. And so I keep our bedroom by myself and she sleeps with the sick kids in the other, like it's a 2-bedroom, whatever. Sleep with the other kids and the other kids are down the hall. They then proceed to all get sick over the course of the next 4 or 5 days. We then move from the hotel to the house after the conference is over. My wife gets sick, and then my older kids start getting sick. I'm the only one, me and my one son are the only one, my middle son, who don't get sick. We land back at home, and then I'm sick for like 2 days after we get back home. It was the worst type. Like I literally was like, this is the worst, like quote unquote business trip I have ever been on, to where it will never be like this again.
So wait, you're saying dad hackers don't bring the kids?
Well, I have another story that was awesome bringing kids, but all in all, young kids, like any way you could mitigate the risk associated with like risk vectors. If you have 4 kids, right? You have 4. I have 11 children, so the risk vector of someone like licking a handrail in the airport is pretty high for me. And so, like,
oh, you guys don't do that?
So anyway, but I mean, you had a good experience.
No, I did.
So, at that same event.
The hack we did was we invited my parents.
That's such a good.
And they were willing to come, and they could come, and it all worked out. So I knew that she had a hand, she wasn't totally by herself. So that made the trip, I think, a lot better because it took the stress out, and then the kids were able to play all day, and the place that was at had a really great like pool and swim area and stuff to do. And then they were able to hold over until I was finished working, and then we stayed a few extra days where we were able to do some fun family stuff. We got a couple good like full family memories in there. So I mean, that trip was pretty recent and went pretty well. I don't think it just depends, right? You can't always pull that off. But bringing the parents or being like, I know people travel with babysitters or help. I think that's a huge hack.
Do you think traveling, again, there's a difference between frequent traveling and sort of, let's call it infrequent traveling, but do you think traveling makes you a better dad when you come back? Like, do you find yourself in a different headspace when you come back?
I do. I feel like
Yeah.
I've always said this, but like traveling just gives you perspective. It
That's
might
a good
be
point.
1 day or 2 days, or I mean, last year I was gone once for 9 days, and I mean that was tough. But it does. I feel like every time you leave and come back, it does give you perspective on your life, your daily grind life.
Yeah.
And it typically makes you, hopefully makes you more appreciative of all the things you have, because especially I've been married for about 15 years, and when you think back to when you were single, like if you're living a single life and you're just like, this is terrible.
It is terrible.
Dude.
It's so bad.
It's great that you mention it, because like I got home and my wife's like, "Oh, was there any good food?" I'm like, "I ate terribly. Like, I didn't know where to go eat. I didn't have any opinions on what I was eating. So like, because you're so used to, like, my wife is like, she's very, very good at like being like, hey, we're gonna go here, then we're gonna go here, then we're gonna go here. We're gonna travel. Yeah. When I travel, I'm just like,
I have meat sticks and I have Skittles. Yeah.
Like basically, it's like beef jerky, Skittles, protein bars. Like, hey, I'm going protein bars. Yeah. I literally
had a bunch of protein bars.
I went to this gym and I was like, oh, they got protein bars. Great. So I buy a bunch. Like, I could have walked to Walgreens, like, dude, but I buy like, it cost 3 times as much as this stupid gym. Yeah. But I'm like, I don't gotta go anywhere. So I was like, man, I ate terribly. So it's funny. You kind of like revert back to being like a single dude again, being like, I don't know, maybe I'll just grab some at the bar later on. But it's like, why? Like, it takes nothing to just go grab something to eat.
I know. I always have like a new appreciation for my wife, and just the fact that she is doing 24 hours like with the kids for a concerted period of time. But also like when I got back from our most recent trip, usually when you come back home from work, you're still kind of on your phone, you're answering emails, whatever. I was able to disconnect for like a day or so, where I was able to like just put my phone away and spend like a lot more time with them. So I do think it does hit like the reset button, which is important as well. But again, you got to kind of find the balance of like how frequent you're doing that travel or not. Let's move into sort of listener corner then. So what's the best or worst dad souvenir you've ever brought home from a trip?
Oh, God. Like I said, I'm not a big souvenir guy.
Yeah, but there must have been a time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of something that would be like the worst. I think like, so we've been to New Orleans quite a few times. We've been in the South, whatever, Florida area. And I'll always bring home like a crocodile's head or something like that.
Just
for
the usual,
kids. Like not a real one, but like the ones you see in the airport that are like whatever, freeze dried.
Yourself, yeah.
And the kids always get a kick out of those things. So typically that's probably one that they like the most. But nothing I can think of off the top.
So you have a collection of like what, alligators?
No, they all die. Like they all get like they all get crushed over the years, and teeth get pulled out. So they eventually get thrown away. So.
Yeah. But you, Matt?
I brought home like, those like gemstones you can buy like in Texas.
Yeah.
Those are always big with the kids. Like these random little shaker toys I found. Like I got one for each of my kids, but they end up being like, they're like metal. They're really small little hearts, but they're painted and they had like a bell in them and they're metal. Well, the kids started chucking those things in the house, and I'm like, these cannot be out anymore. Super bad idea. But and then honestly, if I get something for my wife and she's wearing it, that's a win, right? Because it's like, because you're looking at stuff, you're like, man, I think this would fit her. I think she'd like, you go back and forth, and so if you see her wearing, there's a sweatshirt I got my wife, like
world's best mom,
world's best mom, and
so simple.
So I see it on her, I'm just like, nice sweatshirt, it's like that's a win, right? That's a win for sure.
You go, but then I do have one that wasn't a dad travel trip, but it was awesome. On a trip.
Okay. I've got a slight flex on you guys. So I got back in 2022, I got invited to the Masters, and so I was at like the Augusta National, and I was like, okay, what souvenir can I like get like the kids? And I don't know if you've like heard, but like that guest, or not guest store, the gift shop. I think that gift shop makes $1 million an hour or something.
Yeah, I've heard some
like
crazy
that.
astronomical number.
But the access that we got, so you have like the regular gift store, and then the access that we had was like in this like specific place where the Masters logo is different to the regular one. So the regular logo is like a yellow, whatever. But this one that was like the all access, it's like a green logo. And it's very hard to find. Like if you're ever like looking at like...
Is this a real store?
No, it's a real story. I'm making it up.
Disappeared after he walked out.
It's like he's like off into another area. It's like some dude just set up.
You know
the
those
little
like
thing.
street vendors.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Have?
This is
we got
special.
this special.
No,
logo. Sure, bud.
His name was Pablo. He like imported it for me. It was just, he said, just for me.
Yeah.
One time only. One day
One day
special.
only.
One buy one get one free.
Get it now. It's gone.
Anyway, thanks for reading the story, guys.
Sure.
But I got her like all these like stuffed animals and like golf apparel and like mini golf clubs and all this stuff like from like the Augusta National with that special like imprint.
Yeah, that real special.
Does she golf? Does she like
No,
the Masters?
she's 4. She has no.
Oh,
she
your
has
daughter.
No,
Okay, I'm
No,
sorry.
she has no idea. But
That's
like
cool.
That's cool.
one day she will be like, oh wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, you know, imprinted with like the Augusta National, the year it was from, and all of that as well.
awesome.
So I thought
That's
that was a cool little gift.
That's
so
awesome.
I get protective of like that like stuffed bear. When I see that stuffed bear getting like thrown around, I'm like, whoa.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. That was
Is that a gift for you or
Yeah.
for her at that point?
$40 for like a
Yeah,
small
right.
teddy bear. Yeah.
I believe it.
So real quick, this wasn't like a dad trip. I actually had my
Yeah.
sons with me, but I had a very specific thing I wanted to buy. So I was driving from New Orleans to Arizona, and my one, I don't know which one of my kids was like, "Oh, if you find a sombrero, Dad, can you get me a sombrero?" So I'm in El Paso, which is like a great place to buy sombreros.
This sounds like it's gonna be really culturally appropriate, but continue.
Continue. 100% is. So we're in this area that is predominantly like a Mexican area, and like all the shops are like in like Spanish. Like there's no like English writing anywhere. And so I'm like, I literally go into like 4 or 5 stores and nobody has sombreros. And so finally I'm like, there's one store left. It's a butcher shop, and I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna take a shot at this.
Yeah.
So I walk in, and it's one of those like Western movies where you walk in and everyone stops talking.
And they look at you.
Hombre.
I literally walk in, the entire butcher shop goes quiet. I'm just like a white dude standing in a Mexican butcher shop. It's like a terrible joke. But then there's a stack of sombreros.
No
like
way.
legitimately, like
Oh
a stack
my
of like
God.
50 sombreros. And I was like, are those for sale? And they're like, yeah, man. And I was like,
Si, senor.
and I was like, all right, cool. So I end up going and buy 2 of these sombreros.
That's great.
These sombreros are still like, this was like 8
no
years
way.
ago.
Yeah.
They're still all like awesome. And we were living in Arizona at the time for like a couple months, whatever.
Yeah.
My one son would honestly, he'd put the sombrero on and just walk around the neighborhood. He didn't know anybody. He would just walk around the neighborhood. And one day I was like, dude, what are you wearing your sombrero for? He's like, I'm trying to make friends. Like, what? We're in like Chandler. This is not the area to be wearing a sombrero. Anyway, we still have the sombreros.
That's
They
great.
were the best gift because they still get busted out quite
that's
often.
awesome.
Anyway.
That's amazing.
But anyway, I
man.
wasn't by myself.
Yeah, that's
But-
funny. That's funny. That's
great.
awesome. That's
great.
awesome. All right, guys. Well, look, let's close this out with a with our section around dad interests. So, Matt, what about you? What's the dad interest? this week?
So something that's come back. This is a YouTube thing, but have you guys ever heard of bushcraft?
yeah.
It's basically guys that go out in the woods and
Okay.
survive, right? Or
Yeah.
they just make fires and shelters. And we found this out like years ago. There's one guy, I think he's in the Netherlands somewhere. He doesn't talk. So this is a video with no talking, and they're like an hour and a half long. And I remember putting it on once, and like every kid just slowly started coming over and just sitting down and just was mesmerized by. He has a hatchet. He's got like his little tarp that he builds and stuff, and he's just sitting there cutting wood.
But no, like doesn't say anything.
Doesn't speak at all.
Huh.
Cutting wood, he'll cook stuff, he'll whittle a spoon, like he'll make stuff. And he does it in a way where it's not like, it spends 30 minutes just watching whittle a spoon. It cuts back and forth enough. But yeah, so I've been throwing that back on, and it's funny because the same thing happens. Because it's been like years since I found it. I'm like, oh yeah. And all the kids somehow will just eventually come around and just sit down, and they'll just want to watch the bushcraft guy sit out in the, survive for like 3 days in the woods. So check it out.
By you.
Oh man, so many different things. So I don't know if you guys have like a Remarkable or like a Kindle or anything
know it.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I know it.
So I've recently started using my it's like an actual like tablet you can write a Kindle on. I recently started using my Kindle to actually like read on, and it's a pretty good experience. Like they've always been like, oh, they're good e-readers, whatever.
Yeah.
But I have I'm reading the book Endurance, which is like I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
actually read the actual book. It is a monster.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
read
whatever,
it, yeah.
400 pages.
Yeah.
And I was packing. I was like, I don't want to pack this whole thing. So I was like, I downloaded the book. And I've been reading on the Kindle, and I was shocked at how good of an experience. Like reading, it's a newer one, whatever. It's a newer version.
I've never used one, and I've always wondered,
I've always
is
done
it worth it?
audiobooks. Yeah, I've always done.
I thought because I like to read. Like I'll listen to books. Like it depends on how much I care about the book. Like some books I'll just listen to, whatever. Like I'm listening to the Vice President's book, J.D. Vance's book right now. Dude, you talk about a backstory.
This is his hillbilly one?
Yeah, this is his hillbilly
Elegy or whatever.
Elegy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It is an incredible backstory. Whether you are, Democrat or Republican, whatever. I mean, everybody has, stories that kind of come from the ashes story. But, I'm only halfway through, and I'm not endorsing anybody or anything. I'm more saying, such a great story. I'll listen to that because I'm not really interested in reading it.
Sure.
But, endurance is something that... So, anyway, all that to say, the Kindle is... It is a shockingly good experience, as opposed to trying to read on your iPad. Because I hate reading on my iPad. That's what I don't. I'm not a big fan of it. Whereas the Kindle is, or whatever, any e-readers is solid. So
nice.
Yeah.
My one's a hard pivot from whatever you guys said. Mine's yoga this week.
Really?
You're into yoga?
It's just, on and off, I've tried to get into yoga.
You took my mobility stretching to heart, huh?
Well, I've been on and off, doing yoga, just in general. But I don't know if I shared with you guys. I recently found out I have tendonitis in my shoulder.
Okay.
So I can't do anything overhead.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
that's what quitters say.
That's what,
Where's my yoga pants? My shoulder hurts.
I have shoulders.
Are you wearing yoga?
This episode sponsored by Lululemon. Right. These are women's, I think. But no, yoga is so much harder of a workout than you realize. And again, I'm not going to sit there because I think a few weeks ago you were telling me you were doing, what is his name, Chris Bumstead's workout. So I'm not going to sit there and compare, my 25 minutes of yoga.
Yoga's hard.
But when
yoga can be hard.
you're itching to do something and I can't properly work out right now. And I'm it's too cold to run outside. I don't want to be one of those fitness moms that is doing those HIIT workouts with the colorful weights and whatever else. So I was okay, well, part of why I got hurt is lack of mobility. So I just started doing yoga a lot more. So even when we were traveling, not to paint a picture.
Listen, we did not do yoga together. I want to be very clear.
There was no downward dog. There was
nothing like that.
To be clear, nothing. I did wear my yoga pants most of the time. But yeah, mine's yoga. So awesome. To anyone out there looking to get into mobility and stretching and fitness and whatever else.
I did do one. So we were in South Carolina, and we have some friends down there, and they're like, "Oh, you should do this beach yoga with us." And so my wife went to one day, and she's like, "Hon, you have to come. It's so much fun. It's so relaxing." So I went to this beach yoga class. I was the only dude there in beach yoga.
Yeah.
I think I fell asleep twice doing beach yoga. Yeah. But it was good. I have no hate against yoga.
And I bet you look good in your spandex too.
Dude, that's the thing.
I got to tell the story.
Showing off.
I went with my wife to yoga classes years ago, and there was this older...
Sorry, I like how everyone laughed at me. And
we're all these closet yogis.
If I could do a man bun, I would, okay? But unfortunately, it's not going to happen.
Well, that's what the traction alopecia...
Okay, so listen, I go to this class with her, and there's this older guy in the class, and I think it's just me and him as far as, men in the class. And at the end, the lady is the lights are dim. She's like, you getting what is it, child's pose or something? You're laying on the ground, and she's like, just release all the tension.
I can see where this is going.
Dude, this guy just rips the biggest fart, man, in the quietest room. And I just started talking, and I could just see the disappointment on his face. He was just the one thing he did not want to happen was that.
At least he was relaxed.
So that was my yoga story. And so at least I left with a laugh.
Wait, can we talk about farting on planes? Dude, when does it become socially acceptable to just fart on planes?
Not right.
Dude, they're both down and back on my recent trip, and this was 2 days ago. Somebody kept farting the entire way down. It was come on. We're all in this tube together.
There's a video, I think recently.
No way.
The whole plane is...
This guy stands up and goes, who's farting? Whoever's farting, please stop farting. It smells terrible. He literally stands up, makes an announcement.
It was so bad. I was like,
man.
and I thought, okay, you go down. One trip is one thing. Back-to-back trips, it's like you just don't care about people. Like you have to plug it, cork it, do something, use the restroom. It's 3 hours, dude. It's a long flight. Anyway,
We gotta end this, boys.
yeah, land the plane. Land the plane for us, Matt.
Take us home, Matt.
Well, listen, guys, thanks for joining us today. If you guys are new dads, if you're old dads, if you're interested in being a dad, this is a place for you. We want to build a community of like-minded dads. So subscribe, reach out. We'd love to hear, comment. We'd love to talk about stuff that you guys send in or review some of your questions. We do have an email address too. You could hit us up at theboardroom@chiefdadofficers.com. Thanks for listening.